Hi, Rabbit of Gaming Rabbit 17 here, and I am participating in J at Arts J-World Challenge. Go check them out along with Litwig Productions, among anyone else who might be participating in this challenge. Day 1. Kanto. Kanto is the first generation and tends to have the simpler, more just an animal or more just a plant designs. I do not remember what my first Pokemon was, but I can provide a design that is simple. Bunny, a pure normal type, the bunny Pokemon. When this Pokemon was first discovered, researchers were unsure whether to classify it as a Pokemon or not. This doubt was cleared up when its evolution attacked. This being of a Pokemon is quite nervous and very much prefers to hide. This Pokemon is so normal, it has the ability Normalize. Rabbit, a pure normal type, the rabbit Pokemon. Initially mistaken for Bunnelby, some researchers believe it may be this Pokemon's ancestor. This was, of course, after the initial confusion on whether or not it was a Pokemon when first discovered. When it attacked after researchers got too close to a bunny. Eldabun, a pure normal type, the Elderbun Pokemon. Most Pokemon don't get visibly older when evolving, so yet again, researchers initially confused this one for a regular animal. This Pokemon is a sweet old rabbit, just don't pick on its prevos or you will meet its full wrath. Day 2. Sevi Islands. Within the Sevi Islands, there is a character named Celio that helps you on your quest to open the network machine. In the Pokemon Adventures manga, he has a Hoppip, and this is a man that is not good at battling, so this Hoppip would definitely just be a companion. In some dex entries it states, Jumpluff travels on seasonal winds. Once its cotton spores run out, its journey ends, as does its life. I suspect this man would want his Hoppip to live a long and happy life, but if it evolves, that might not be an option. I was thinking, in addition to his work, he is researching a way to extend Hoppip's life. With Bill's help, he came up with an idea and would need the players' help to test out their theory. With a Hoppip in tow, you would travel across the Sevi Island in numerical order, evolving it into a Skiploom on Island 3. Then on Island 7, Celio would meet up with you with an ancient bell item and a map to a hidden cove. You give the item to your Skiploom and travel to the cove, which ends up being full of cats. Surrounded by cats, your Skiploom evolves into something new. Jump Fluff, a grass and fairy type, the false cottonweed Pokemon. Evolved in a well-hidden grove absolutely perfect for the wildcat Pokemon that live there. This cat-like Pokemon now has flowers that regrow, meaning it no longer loses its life at the end of its flower's life cycle. It is now based on false dandelions instead of dandelions. False dandelions are perennial plants, meaning they last a lot longer than your average dandelion. If you want to evolve this Pokemon elsewhere, it would involve taking your Hoppip to every area of the region, or part of region, then giving it a bell item while filling your party with cat Pokemon. Day 3. Johto. Generation 2 was when baby Pokemon were introduced, and I have just the thing. Tanashi, a pure ground type, the seedless Pokemon. This Pokemon appears to be a seed ball missing seeds. The only thing this Pokemon is interested in is berries. So much so that it won't even acknowledge a battle is happening unless the opponent is holding a berry. Even then, this Pokemon's speed all but ensures that it will steal the berry and run away before you can comprehend what's happening. It has a new ability, Berry Intrigue, where Tanashi will immediately flee a battle if the opposing Pokemon is not holding a berry. If the opposing Pokemon starts by holding a berry, then consumes the berry before it can steal it, this Pokemon will flee immediately. It only knows one move, Seed Sneak, where it has a chance to steal an opponent's berry. The chance grows as the battle moves on, and once it does steal the berry, it will flee. As you can see, the only thing this Pokemon cares about is berries, and if you do manage to catch it, it will immediately consume 5 random berries in your backpack and evolve. The other evolutions are more complicated and are actually planned to be revealed later. Day 4. Hoenn. No art for this one. Instead, I'm going to explain how I handle abilities, which honestly is part of my art process, so say it counts as art. I enjoy role playing games, and I ended up making abilities more RPG like. Abilities now have three different effects: battle, pasture, and overworld. Not all abilities have all three effects. Pokemon can have a different ability per effect, and I have increased the amount of abilities a Pokemon can potentially learn to 6. I'm also not worrying about hidden abilities, but that is mainly because I don't really want to figure out what that is, and that is mainly because I don't really want to figure out what is and isn't a hidden ability per Pokemon. Battle effects are what fans are most familiar with. Pasture effects are what abilities do when the Pokemon are in certain parts of a pasture. I will explain my grievances more about pastures in LA in my Celia video, along with how they work. Overworld effects require a little more explanation. In my regions, you don't just have the standard 6 battle party slots, you also have 6 overworld slots. These can be used for ride Pokemon or other abilities. For example, if you have a Pokemon with a pickup ability in an overworld slot, you will automatically pick up items as you go. Intimidate will decrease the spawn rate of Pokemon, and Attract will increase the spawn rate. One of these overworld slots is for your Pokemon Familiar. Their ability might help in the over could help, but could be useful in the overworld or in battle. Day 5. Sinnoh. This was the generation that introduced the three main Regis after Regigigas. Here's my take on a Regi for the sound type. Regioki, a pure sound type, the karaoke Pokemon. A more recent creation, this Pokemon really seems to enjoy karaoke. It is unclear as to how, but this Pokemon has changed over the years to better fit with modern speakers. Though due to its ever-changing RGB body, it is unable to hide very well among them. If Regis had secondary typing, this guy would also have the light type, but since RGB tends to be used everywhere in sound-based stuff, it won't be considered. Day 6. Sui. Pastures. I did promise this earlier, and I will get into it, but first, a deeper delve into a familiar face. Hold'em aka UB Pocket. A psychic and fairy type, the bag of holding Pokemon. Much research has been done on this Pokemon and the pocket dimension inside. All evidence points to that all it wants to do is to be a backpack. You cannot acquire one by standard means. To obtain one, all you have to do is walk around with only the shirt on your back, though it is not always guaranteed. It has a new ability, Multidimensional. In battle, this allows this Pokemon to exist in multiple dimensions at once, stopping it from attacking and being attacked. In an overworld slot, this allows the Pokemon to act as a backpack and pastures, with a customizable area where you can rest. One of the many Pokemon I have created that are useless in battle, this Pokemon would be a permanent addition to one of your overworld slots. Anywhere else that does not have this feature, this Pokemon would act as a key item. Hatching Pasture. A Pokemon with Flare Body or other such ability must be present for eggs to hatch. Hatched Pokemon will not automatically be in a Pokeball. You must use a Pokeball on a Pokemon in order to catch it, which will be an automatic catch. Alternatively, you can use the ideal layout, which will automatically catch the Pokemon for you. I have quite a few rules here for how Hatching Pasture works, so you can pause to view or visit the link in the description. The Collection Pasture. This pasture is simpler. Some Pokemon, much like in Pokopia or in a pasture in Cobblemon, will drop items. If you place a Pokemon with an item collection ability in the first slot, it will collect the items the Pokemon in the pasture drops and place it into your bag. Otherwise, those Pokemon will drop an item by holding it until you interact with it in whatever pasture it is in. Day 7. Unova, Part 1. New York is full of skyscrapers, so I'm going to go ahead and talk more about my Gigantamax Chalarunt. Yeah, it is a Gigantamax, but more importantly, it is a skyscraper. This idea actually originated when I put this line together in a size chart. It's one of the only Pokemon sizes I had an idea for. So I looked up triangle-shaped skyscrapers, and I found the Transamerica Pyramid, which is in San Francisco, California. But that is not important. What is important is that it gave me the most ideas for creating a Gigantamax form. Gigantamax Chalarunt. The tallest known Gigantamax form, this Pokemon would gladly house 3 dozen or more families if it could only manage to keep hold of the form for longer than 3 minutes. As you can see, this guy is ginormous. Day 8. Unova Part 2. My next Pokemon is loosely based on a centipede first discovered in Central Park in New York City. This is the Nanorope. Other than being tiny, there doesn't seem to be anything special about it, so I went with another thing New York has a lot of: lights. Nanopede, a bug and light type, the Nanocenipede Pokemon. This tiny centipede was only recently discovered in Unova, originally discovered when people finally realized the light bulbs in their light fixtures were lasting far longer than normal. Studies show this Pokemon enjoys lighting up areas, so they have just left the Pokemon alone. It's got a new ability, Billboard, where the Pokemon summons more Nanopede and forms an entire billboard, lighting up the area and revealing all hidden Pokemon. Day 9. Kalos. Part 1. Personally, I don't care for Megas, and that is the only thing I would think appropriate to create for the Kalos region. However, as part of the region I am working on, I am taking the Mega forms and giving those Pokemon new forms and evolutions based on how the Pokemon might perceive their Mega. This is a region where I am using the Dream type, and its source is the reason for this phenomenon. This is a D&D based region based on the Humblewood homebrew I am calling Pandoria, and regional forms are called Pandorial forms. Normally, taking a Pokemon into the Dream Realm is what will allow them to evolve. However, the option to evolve Slowbro will only appear once you have left the Dream Realm. Slowster, a Water and Dream type, the Dopey Pokemon. Despite having a known Mega Evolution, it is unclear if Slowbro has the capacity to dream well enough to gain a new form. It is believed this form is from the dreams of Shelter biting onto Slowbro's tail. Whether or not Slowbro's dream have anything to do with the form is unclear. This is very much one of my more goofy Mega to Dream Evos. Day 10. Kalos. Part 2. Now for one of my darker Mega to Dream Evos. Mega Houndoom's Dex entries talk a lot about how they are so hot they will start to melt. I would say it is understandable Houndour would be terrified of that possibility. In this region, they refuse to evolve, but they cannot help it while in the Dream Realm due to the intensity of their nightmares. Sludgehound, a fire and dark type, the hot lava Pokemon. Being a pile of lava sludge in the vague shape of a dog, this Pokemon does not have much dexterity. Anyone who gets too close may take damage from the overwhelming heat. When I was first coming up with ideas for this Pokemon, the only design notes I had was pile of lava sludge vaguely dog-shaped. When I went to go draw the Pokemon, I referenced Slugma to make sure I didn't make it look like it, but I realized Slugma already kinda looks like a pile of lava sludge vaguely dog-shaped, so I traced it and replaced some of the elements with more dog-like features. For this Pokemon, the Metal Coat item only works for one Steel-type move. In order to evolve it, you must first use 5 Metal Coat powered moves. There are other instructions to evolve it, but that depends on what you want to evolve it into. To evolve into this variant of Houndoom, you must then be defeated in battle by a Water-type move. Pandorial Houndoom, a Steel and Dark type, the Armored Dog Pokemon. This variant of Houndoom is not as dexterous as its normal variant. What you see is pretty much just a suit of armor around the Pokemon that allows it to walk around better. And yes, tracing was done here as well. It makes sense when you are drawing a variant that has only small differences. The other way Sledgehound evolves is using the Magma Stone key item on it, which will allow it to evolve into Heatran, just a normal Heatran. One of the rules I created for myself before ZEA came out is that legendaries and mythicals would not get a Mega Dream form, with a few exceptions, but that's for later. Day 11. Alola. As I mentioned earlier, I like playing TTRPGs, though admittedly I've only played Dungeons & Dragons. So here is a whole set of Ultra Beasts, all themed around dice. These are the Number-O Dice Pokemon, aka UB Roll, 4-O Dice, 6-O Dice, 8-O Dice, the two forms of 10-O Dice, 12-O Dice, and 20-O Dice. These are just my own dice, however, here's an example of what I want all the forms to look like. 6-O Dice, a pure Psychic type, the 6-sided dice Pokemon. These Pokemon seem to like being rolled and will happily let players of TTRPGs use them in their games, though they hate cheating and will refuse to move if you attempt to do so. They also tend to change color and design to better fit with their players' preferences. They have a new ability, Roll the Dice. Each round, a random stat of a Pokemon on the field is raised or lowered by 1. On the sides of 6-O Dice, you can see my take on Number Unknown. The point of these tiny little guys is that they are the size and shape of your average dice with Number Unknown as the numbers. The shiny is Metal Dice and takes on the Metal type, and alphas are the size of those plush dice. Acquiring Paradice does not work as you would expect them to. You actually need to breed 2 of any Number-O Dice Pokemon, and the resulting egg will be a Paradice that is a combination of the two. Number-O Dice must be bred with Ditto if you wish to obtain more of them. Paradice, aka UB Duel, a pure Psychic type, the pair of dice Pokemon. How these Pokemon even work has confused many Pokemon breeders and professors. There is much debate whether these Pokemon are somehow an evolution of its singular forms or another species entirely. The two dice are connected by a mysterious psychic energy. The ability of this Pokemon is Roll the Dice, again. It is the same as Roll the Dice, but it happens twice per turn. Shinies and Alphas act the same as the Number-O Dice Pokemon. If you breed with a Number-O Dice Alpha, it will give birth to Alpha versions of this Pokemon. However, you may have noticed there is a Paradice that is missing. When you breed the two forms of D10, the egg hatches into something else. Hundo Dice, aka UB Table, a pure Psychic type, the 100-sided dice Pokemon. Originally, these Pokemon had a different UB designation of UB Fate. The designation was changed after so many gamers used it for another purpose. Pokemon breeders and professors are just as confused about this Pokemon as its Paradice siblings. They have a new ability, Table Roll, which randomizes the types of attacks for everyone on the field per round. Shinies and Alphas act the same as the Paradice Pokemon. That's not even the end of these Pokemon. With Hundo Dice as your lead Pokemon, fill a box labeled Dice Bag with some combination of the following dice as either Number-O Dice or Paradice Pokemon. You will need 8d4, 6d6, 2d8, 4d10, 2 of each form, 1d12, and 1d20. You will then be able to evolve Hundo Dice, which consumes all the dice in the dice bag. If there is a shiny or alpha anywhere in the dice bag, the evolution takes on those characteristics. Set-O Dice, aka UB Fixation, a pure null type. The set of dice Pokemon. Upon evolution, this Pokemon fixates on the first future it sees for itself and does everything in its power to make certain it happens, no matter the consequences. No one has been successful in convincing this Mon to choose of their futures. This Pokemon then becomes a key item and acts as a shiny charm. I made this guy overpowered and chaotic. I am not allowing the player to have this as a Pokemon. At most, may have a region with this as the Big Bad's final Pokemon, which this was actually created for, but that region has been split into multiple regions, Pandoria and a potential region or set of regions based on Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. It has 2 signature abilities and 4 signature moves, which you can see here. Again, this Pokemon is overpowered and chaotic. Luckily for the big bad fight, Seto Dice would have the ability Cheaters Never Prosper, which may or may not end up benefiting the player. Day 12. Galar. Alright, Galar, my first Pokemon game. I have gone ahead and created a Gigantamax form for one of my Rabbitmon. This is Gigantamax Wizardbee. The staff has become a whole tower, and the Wizardbee within has somehow caused the clouds standard to this phenomenon to turn into stars. Its G-Max move is G-Max Tower, a fairy-type move that increases the defense and special defense of it and its allies by 1 stage. Day 13. Isle of Armor. Another baby Pokemon here, for a Pokemon that was only available for a short time, Zarude. Unfortunately, I did not have the game when the event took place, so I was unable to get Zarude. Zoboki, a pure grass type, the cheeky monkey Pokemon. It loves to pull pranks. Many believe the pranks are actually warnings to turn away before they incur the wrath of their evolution. These Pokemon have a strong sense of community, adopting any young abandoned Pokemon into their pack. They use the vines that grow on it to help their home forest to grow and to heal sick Pokemon. It has a new ability, the Power of Friendship. Battle effect, for each ally in the party with max friendship, including itself, all stats of this Pokemon are increased by 1 stage. Familiar effect. When this Pokemon is at max friendship, it is able to increase its allies' stats by 1 stage per round, as long as they are also at max friendship. Zarude's signature move, Jungle Healing, works a bit differently for this Pokemon. It is unable to heal status conditions, and the amount of healing it does depend on levels of friendship. Zoboki evolves after being knocked out a certain number of times, with at least one other Zoboki in a full party, all at max friendship. Lore-wise, it was unable to protect its family one too many times, which causes it to break. Day 14. Crown Tundra. I have created a rabbit that fits here. Bulbapedia says Calyrex may be based on an Arctic hare. I have created a Prevo and Evo along with a new form for Calyrex. Prineus, a pure grass type, the Princeling Pokemon. This pompous prince Pokemon perturbs people perpetually. Most trainers evolve it sooner rather than later, even when they know the potential consequences of evolving it early. Prineus evolves when given Psychic Seeds. Calyrex, a grass and Psychic type, the King Pokemon. The older this Pokemon gets, the larger its buds get, and the more powerful the psychic energy becomes. Unfortunately, the buds also sap its life energy over time, causing it to take on a more frail appearance if never given the chance to evolve. Rumors tell one of these Pokemon became the king of a distant region. Due to the well-documented issues surrounding this Pokemon, this claim is considered impossible. The Pokemon would never have lived long enough. This version of Calyrex has a gimmick. The activation of its moves and abilities come at a cost of 1/32 of its max HP. If you're wondering how Galarian Calyrex managed to survive this, he didn't. Whatever horse Pokemon that became the 2 in the game sacrificed themselves, somehow nullifying the parasitic bud so Calyrex could continue living. Calyrex evolves when given a special carpet of moss found only in its homeland. Bassiflos, a grass and psychic type, the Flower King Pokemon. The buds have blossomed into flowers and no longer sap the life energy from this Pokemon. It is now mutually beneficial. Many believe it is because of the cape it now wears. Day 15. Paldea. A little bit more about my terrestrial expansion. In Area 0, in the deepest depths where you find Terrapagos, carping can also be found. One of these carpings evolved into a special Diancie after consuming so many Terra Crystals. This Pokemon then made its way to the Pandoria region and is the reason for the terrestrial phenomenon there. The gems seen on Terra hats reflect its origin, based on Mega Diance's head gem. I have also created a Terra hat for the sound and light type, with Diance's Terra gem where the Terra gem on the hat would normally be. For the light type, I am further referencing Dark and Light's evil and good theming. It is yet another trace, this time of the dark Terra hat with the colors switched. Day 16. Get a comment. So far, quite a few of my submissions have only had a loose connection to the region. This is not an exception. The only real connection is berries. If you manage to feed Tanashi 5 of the same berry, it will evolve into a berry bush that grows that type of berry. If Tangela and Tangrowth are based on shambling mounds, these two are based on awakened shrubs and trees. Bushella, a pure fairy type, the awakened shrub Pokemon. Unless evolved by a trainer, this Pokemon are pretty stationary, preferring to stay in one spot. They make certain they are in an area that can help a bunch of local Pokemon by providing them with delicious berries. They will attack if someone unknown tries to take their berries. This Pokemon grows the berry you use to evolve it, and its ability, Berry Wield, reflects this. Battle Effect. Allows this Pokemon to use the berry growing on it 1 to 5 times in battle. It cannot hold any other items. Familiar Effect. All berries held by the Pokemon can be used twice. It's got a complicated evo method. You must fill a berry basket with a number of the more common berries and use it on this Pokemon. The shiny will only accept the rarer berries. I do have a list of all the berries, including some custom berries that would be needed. Bushare, a pure fairy type. The awakened tree Pokemon. Unlike its Prevo, this Pokemon prefers to root itself permanently into the ground. While it can still attack, it is much slower. Though when provoked, it can certainly pack a wallop. Often mistaken for a regular berry tree, trainers will try to pick the fruit only to be attacked, unless the trainer has shown kindness to the Pokemon Bushare considers under its protection. Its ability, Berry Good, allows it to use the effect of the berry that evolved it into Bushella with no limits. It cannot hold other items. Its signature move, Care Berry, is more useful in double battles, as it allows Bushare to give an ally one of the berries it grows. If the ally meets the requirements for a berry to trigger, that berry is more likely to be given. It's recommended to put this Pokemon in a collection basket, as it is a good source of berries. Bushare will drop all the common berries, while the shiny will drop the rarer berries. There is a shiny-only Evo for Bushare that is far more complicated, which would have to be its own video, as it does involve the Pandorial Legendary. I am not sure how I got those shinies confused. Somehow I thought Tangela and Tangrowth shiny had purple shoes with nothing else changed. Not gonna change it now. I am instead going to say that that is what their shinies look like in my regions. Day 17. Gen 10. I really only have one idea for the starters, and it's for Pombon. I have seen the hopes for and hopes not for the Evo for Pombon, both joking and serious. This is very much a joke Evo. Pom-Pom, a fire and fighting type, the cheerleader Pokemon. Often used in competitions all throughout the region, these Pokemon love leading cheers. If you aren't cheering, it's not doing its job and will get very sad. You don't want a sad Pom-Pom, do you? Its ability, Cheery Cheer, gives a cheer to its allies, boosting morale. I imagine this would make the high friendship abilities of shaking off stuff and surviving hits at 1 HP more likely to happen. Day 18. Orre, Arizona. Cactus, Saguaro Cactus. Maractus Evo. Maractus is now a grass and sound type. Sauractus, a grass and sound type, the Saguaro Pokemon. Though this Pokemon cannot move around as well as its Prevo, it still wiggles rhythmically. The Maraca sound is louder, now having a chance to deafen the startled Pokemon. It has a new move, Maraca Mania, a sound type move that has a chance of deafening opponents. I would treat deafened similar to paralysis, with sound types being immune. Lental. The most I know about Pokemon Snap is you are trying to take the perfect picture of Pokemon. Purpic, a pure psychic type, the picture-perfect Pokemon. After capturing the souls of so many Pokemon, this camera has taken on a life of its own. It now strives to take the perfect photo for each and every Pokemon. It has a new move, Picture Perfect. This Pokemon takes a picture of an opponent and shows it to them. For the next 1 to 5 turns, the opponent ignores commands so it can admire itself. To be clear, I am referring to the art phrase capturing the soul. This Pokemon is not one of the many who steals souls. Day 20. Chiroda. J-At Art's Chiroda region is based on Alaska, which has influences from various other places. The Alaskan rabbit is the result of breeders attempting to get a rabbit that looked like the Alaskan fox, but they got a black rabbit instead. It actually originates from Germany and was imported to North America in 1970s. Alaska is also the coldest state and ends up with black ice as a cold weather hazard. Glabice, a pure ice type, the black ice Pokemon. In an attempt to get a rabbit Pokemon with fur similar to Alola and Vulpix, those DNA splicing breeders utterly failed. Instead, they got a nearly invisible Pokemon that leaves behind hazardous black ice as it hops around. It does not mean to do this and attempts to redeem its accidental actions by calling out warnings. It has a new ability, Black Ice. When this Pokemon is brought out in battle, Black Ice terrain is activated where the floor becomes slippery, and all non-flying or levitating Pokemon's physical moves lose 10% accuracy. The name is a combination of rabbit and the German word for black ice, Glatteis. Now, black ice is clear. It's only called black ice because we mainly associate it with roads, which are black, which is why Glabice here has a background to better show that part. If J-At Art is accepting submissions, I consider this Pokemon one. Day 21. Ostara. In Fakemon Forever's Ostara region, there were a lot of Pokemon that had forms corrupted by Ultra Space. What if you went to the opposite direction? Stakataka, uncorrupted form. A pure rock type, the Toy Blocks Pokemon. Due to the similarities to Stakataka, this Pokemon is believed to be what it was before it was exposed to the energy from Ultra Space. This Pokemon loves to entertain children and families alike. A game has come to be made with these little guys, which ends up being more fun with 4 or 5 come together. I think I'm gonna go ahead and create dream forms for each of the Ultra Beasts like I am doing with Megas, though instead I will have their dream forms be their uncorrupted forms. All I am doing here is creating a Pokemon inspired by the region. This is not a submission. Day 22. Komiragen. Komiragen is a region that is also a theme park. As of writing this, there is no official teacup ride. Komiragen forms Sinesti, a pure ghost type, the teacup ride Pokemon. It is said the engineer who created this Pokemon went crazy. No one knows what happened to them, but soon after they disappeared, one of their teacups took on a life of its own, taking on a similar appearance to a well-known Pokemon. If Fakemon Forever is accepting submissions for this region, I am considering this Pokemon as a submission. Day 23. Paleon. Froopy Art's Paleon region's main gimmick is fossil Pokemon, specifically reviving them properly so they end up in their original form. I have a rabbit inspired by this phenomenon, both an improperly and properly brought back version. Progus, fossil, a rock and dark type, the large rabbit Pokemon. Revived from a fossil, this chonky boy quickly became a meme in certain communities. It is believed that if this Pokemon understood what that meant, it would be highly offended and seek out its revenge on all who insulted it. This is Neuralagus, believed to be the ancestor of modern rabbits. Look at this guy. What else could he be easily mistaken for? Procus, true. A dragon and dark type, the king of rabbits Pokemon. Using methods originally found in the Paleon region, Procus' true form was found. It was a mistake, as these Pokemon immediately went on a rampage, destroying the facility they were created in. Paleon researchers came forward saying the so-called researchers who stole the knowledge should have also stolen the methods on how to provide proper enrichment for their newly revived Pokemon. This is not a submission to the Paleon region, just a mon inspired by the idea. Day 24. Hoh'ax. Due to the ongoing, as of writing this video, Fakemon art challenge for this region, I will not submit anything new here just in case. However, I will delve deeper into my submission for the challenge. Warning, disturbing image. This Pokemon will not based on any real-life cryptid, instead is based on a cryptid found in the show Doctor Who, specifically the Absorbaloff. In the episode Love and Monsters, the Absorbaloff joined a group of people looking for the Doctor, the main character of the overall show and very much a universe-spanning cryptid. One by one, each character disappeared, until at the very end, the main character for the episode managed to escape from the Absorbaloff, who had absorbed each character by being saved from the Doctor. Absorbalord, a pure dark type, the Absorbivore Pokemon. This Pokemon is eternally grumpy, for it has no mouth yet it must consume. Don't get too near this Pokemon, or you'll be absorbed into its ever-growing body. Don't let others of this Pokemon near one another. Legends say it will lead to the destruction of many universes. In order to evolve Guzzlord, you must have a full team of Absorbalord and evolve your lead Pokemon, which will also absorb the other Absorbalords. Guzzlord's evolution is based on galaxy frogs. While not a cryptid themselves, they are endangered, and a lot of cryptids do tend to be related in some way to endangered, extinct, or unusual real-life creatures and phenomenon. I have a few methods for how Guzzlord evolves, but the one relevant to the Hoh'ax region involves getting into a battle where the opponent attempts to beast merge with their Pokemon. But the merge fails as Guzzlord consumes the energy, causing Pokemon and trainer to faint. Do this 5 times in order to evolve Guzzlord. Roll Lordy! A dark and dragon type, the satiated Pokemon. The impossible has been achieved. A Guzzlord has been satiated. Good for you. I hope you didn't destroy too many universes to accomplish this task. This round boy has been satiated and is just vibing. However, you still shouldn't provoke it. It is still a formidable foe. Day 25. Iopa. Jake's Fake's Iopa region is based on Greece. I know there is already a player character named Ermin based around Hermes, but a Hermes-based rabbit was my second thought. My first thought was a regional stone joiner based on Greek pillars, but I was not sure how to create that while making it different from Legolem's design. Hermeli, an electric and psychic type, the messenger Pokemon. Using its abilities, this Pokemon zips around, seemingly running on air, delivering letters and packages for fellow Pokemon or its trainer. The carrying limitations of the tail of this Pokemon is unknown. It seems to have a friendly rivalry with Delibird. It has the move Package, which is just a rename of Delibird's present. The name is a combination of Hermes and the modern Greek word for rabbit, Kuneli. This is not one of my official rabbit mons, so I'm considering this a submission for the region. Day 26. Humesum. Gary the Mothim's Humesum region is based on the Netherlands. I ended up coming up with 2 ideas, something based on a dwarf rabbit, and a water strider mixed with a jet ski. Stryski, a water and psychic type, the water ski Pokemon. This Pokemon uses its psychic abilities to change its colors and design to fit with its trainer's personal tastes. Theoretically, this Pokemon has infinite forms, though researchers have discovered some concepts seem too complicated for this Pokemon. This Pokemon strides through the water with ease, even with a trainer on their back. It has the ability Color Change. In battle, this changes its water type. Its psychic type is not changed in this manner. I imagine its color and design would also change, depending on what type it changes into. Sure, the Netherlands Dwarf Rabbit would have probably fit better, but I feel like 7 different rabbit lines is a lot for this challenge already. Also, Strysky has the potential for infinite forms, and is a bug. I am considering this a submission for the Humesum region. Mazah. Subjectively, Mazah region is based on Mexico and Mesoamerica. There's no special gimmick for this region, and I do not want to create a dream form for a fan mecha. So I looked up rabbits in Mexican mythology, and found the Senzon-to-Tocten. If I mispronounced that correctly, I do apologize. They're a group of 400 rabbit deities that get together frequently for drunken parties. Some of these rabbits are important deities of their own, but I decided to go with the party rabbits. Tochtry, a poison and dark type, the juice-loving Pokemon. A group of these Pokemon will keep a Shuckle as a beloved and well taken care of pet and feed it certain things to keep the party going. However, if a lone one is desperate, it will jump a Shuckle and force feed it. The name is a mixture of the Aztec word for rabbit, Tochtli, and dry in the context of alcohol. I like to imagine there are only ever 400 in a given region, with 4 of them being mythicals to represent the 4 named deities that are part of this group of 400. They would even stop spawning if you somehow managed to capture all 400 of them and place them in boxes or trade them away. All I am doing here is creating a Pokemon inspired by the region. This is not a submission. Hahbah. Subjectively's ongoing Hahbah region is based on New England. Unlike the Alaskan rabbit, the Maine Coon actually is from Maine. Maine also has a lot of varieties of moss. Mothim, a fighting and grass type, the mossy cat Pokemon. One of the larger domesticated cat Pokemon, Mothim is a loyal companion that will offer its mossy fur coat to their trainer or friends that seem cold. Unlike most other cat Pokemon, this Pokemon loves the water and can be seen rescuing people in distress. It has the ability Thick Fur, which is just a rename of Thick Fat. If Subjectively is accepting submissions for this region, I consider this a submission. Day 29. Asone. True Green 7's Asone region is based on the Middle East. Alright, one more time. A rabbit. This one is based on the All Mirage, a yellow rabbit with a single black horn. Black horn? That sounds reminiscent of the show papillomavirus, but there are no documented cases of that in the Middle East. Arnicorn, a pure electric type, the single-horned rabbit Pokemon. The name is a combination of unicorn and the Arabic word for rabbit, Arnab. Again, sorry for any mispronunciation. Once believed to be a distant relation to Bunnylope, its black horn shows no signs of parasitic growth, so that was quickly dismissed. Despite its intimidating presence, this Pokemon is quite nervous, and when spooked, it sends bolts of electricity out of its horn. It has a new ability, Stat Zap. If this Pokemon is hit with a stat-changing move or ability, it will paralyze the one that changed the stat. I am saving Bunnylope for a Rabbit of Every Type video, and yeah, it is based on the show papillomavirus and Jackalopes. All I am doing here is creating a Pokemon inspired by the region. This is not a submission. Day 30. Cornera. Pragmagik's Cornera region is based on the Four Corners area, which is where I'm originally from, specifically Arizona. The gimmick here is nucleotypes. My Terrestrial expansion actually has something similar, and may or may not be inspired by it. I honestly do not remember if it was. Many Pokemon have a favorite Terra Perma type. Most of the time, these are types that fit the Pokemon beyond just the ones they were given. You still have to use Terra Waffles to give them the type, but you will not need any extra toppings. You will even gain friendship if you give a Pokemon one of their favorite typings, and as long as they have this type, friendship boost is increased. As a contrast, Pokemon can also have hated Terra Perma types, that they will straight up refuse unless you heap their favorite toppings on the Terra Waffles. You will lose friendship if you successfully give this Pokemon one of their hated typings, and as long as they have this type, friendship gain is halved. Then if you give a Pokemon a certain Terra Perma type, they will evolve once more, much like Perlush evolving into Chaotic Horde with a sound Terra Perma type, which is a favorite type for the Pokemon. However, some Pokemon evolve with their hated Terra Perma type. Weezing was given the Fairy type and produces clean air instead of toxic fumes. In my regions, you would need to give Koffing the Fairy Terra Perma type to get Galarian Weezing. Luckily, the Fairy type is neutral for this line. I am using this Fairy type as a purifying type thing for a Paras Evo. Paras is supposedly a cicada possessed by a parasitic mushroom that fully takes over the Pokemon upon evolution, which I take to mean the mushroom has more influence than the creature possesses, especially when it comes to evolution. If you manage to give Paras their hated Terra Perma type of fairy, it will evolve. However, you must do this before it reaches level 24, because by then it's too late. I originally thought these Pokemon were crabs, and Parasect does have some hermit crab inspiration, so I am sticking with that. Paracept, a pure bug type with a Terra Perma type of fairy, which cannot be changed. The crab Pokemon. This Pokemon, unlike its counterpart, now has complete control over its mushroom. Instead of harmful parasitic spores, its spores are now healing spores. If these spores touch its Prevo, it will immediately evolve. Unfortunately, the mushroom recognizes this Pokemon as a threat and will make Paras run and flee at first sign. As the fairy type saved Paracept from certain death, it is no longer a hated type, but a favorite Terra Perma type and would act as such. This ties into its new ability, Healing Shroom. In battle, all mushroom-related moves heal instead of damage. In Overworld, you will not encounter mushroom or infected Pokemon. Each variant of Cordyceps infects only one type of insect. I am flipping it around and making this mushroom remove infections instead. However, this is Pokemon, so it affects all. The names combines Parasite, and Intercept. If it wasn't already obvious, this is not a submission. I am just using the idea of nucleotypes as a transition to further explain my terrestrial expansion. And with that, is all my submission for J at Art's Japril Challenge. If you haven't already, remember to check them out along with Litwick Productions. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye! Thanks, Professor.